Hey, as you well know, I've had a snafu, a faux pas, and got off schedule with the lectures related to what's in the syllabus. So I'm trying to recover that. Some of you are in my other class, the human sexuality class. I'm doing the same thing there. So this won't be news to you. Excuse me. At any rate, what I'm going to do is kind of put together a couple of items, try to get us back on schedule. So you're going to hear recap mostly, with a few extra added little things thrown in there. So what we should have been doing this week, you were introduced to, and it was discussed last week in that lecture, and it's strategic family therapy. I just want to give you a different view of this, and mainly to added information, but to get us back on schedule. So what is it? It's a short-term therapy. Um, it's designed to be used with children, adolescents that are having behavioral issues. Ooh, that's real. Uh, and the therapist designs interventions for specific problems. That's why it's called strategic. And hopefully you can create some behavioral change with that. Um, the family, the idea is the family plays the most important role in the life and development of children. Now, we're speaking in general terms. And we're not going to go off on these little side routes about, oh yeah, well, what if grandma's a caregiver, blah blah blah. We all know how that works. So we're going to worry with the primary actors in a child's life, family, and what the therapy does is it tries to identify and change the interactions, the structure of the patterns of the interactions that make up the family's day-to-day life experiences. Um, you address the behaviors and interactions that cause the problem behavior, and it helps. Supposedly, it's to help the families function better, so that the kids overcome issues that they're going through. So that's kind of a brief overview of what it is. Now, there are different types, and I'm not going to burden you with all those different types. Just want to mention them. Family systems therapy. We talked about, I kind of touched on that at some point, or I'm getting ready to. And structural family therapy. We talked about that for sure. So these are just some relatable types. They have their own little peculiarities, and they're basically designed to be able to fine tune. But there are techniques that are common to all of them. And that's what I want to run over quickly with you next. The techniques that are tailored to each family's unique situation. Again, bear in mind it's called strategic. So we're zeroing in on stuff. The family situation, I'm going to tailor the individualized function of this strategic therapy. Um, but again, commonalities. Number one, joining the very first step. I have to create what's known as a therapeutic alliance. I'm creating this with the family. I'm developing this uh, related to the family's needs. It's based on mutual respect, and it considers things like helping the family. Uh, in the sense of feeling that the therapist is not um, it is a part of the situation. I guess is the best way to put that. Is not an innocent bystander, so to speak, or what we used to call in law enforcement an uninterested third party participant. I won't go into explanation of that. That's a fancy word for a witness. So what it does is it allows the therapist, in the case of what we're talking about, to gain confidence from the family. And they're kind of included into the family unit eventually. The second step is tracking and diagnosing. And once you have the relationship, then you work to learn more about the behavior patterns in the family. What are their thoughts, etc. and that helps you determine strengths and weaknesses in that function. And now we can begin to look at a treatment plan. So moves us into what's called tracking and diagnosing. You have the relationship. Now I learned to, I'm sorry, not tracking, diagnosing, restructuring. I've already established tracking and diagnosing, get myself confused. Now I'm going to restructure. I'm going to apply strategies that are going to address the problems, address the behaviors, and address the relationships, all of which are contributing to the behavioral issues. So I could look at things like behavior management, maybe behavior modification, communication. What are the skills of the parents? How do you resolve conflicts? Are you authoritarian? Are you authoritative? What kind of a parent are you? Are you permissive? Not a good parenting style. Not necessarily my personal opinion. I don't particularly agree necessarily with a permissive parenting style within reason, but we won't go into Baumann's parenting styles. And then what are the things? So you establish these things. That's the technique, so on and so forth. What does it help with? Well, it helps with aggressive behaviors. It helps with conduct and the patterns associated with that. It helps with delinquency, noncompliance, substance abuse problems, risky sexual behavior, violent behavior. These are all almost pie in the sky things. These are some serious situations. And what we want to do is diffuse these things if possible. It's often used in the criminal justice system, believe it or not. Children enter into this system due to drug use, delinquency, violent behaviors. Some student last week assaulted 2 teachers at Myers Park High School. At one point in my teaching experiences, I taught at the alternate high school in Gaston County. And I'm not making this up. Every student in our school, I can't remember now how many students we had, 100 maybe, a little more. Each and every student there had a probation officer. They had been in trouble. They were anywhere from the ages of 14. We had some students as old as 19. This was their last shot. So strategic family therapy may have been used in the background. I was teaching social studies, so I wasn't connected with the psychology other than the fact that I had a room full of kids that didn't want to be there. They wanted to be out getting in trouble. Very interesting situation. Wish I'd have had my degree in psychology at the time. But that's why they were there. So what we want to do is improve their situation. They did have on-staff psychologists, by the way. We want to improve the family function. We want to increase or establish positive parental interactions, parental involvement. I know a lot of our students came from one parent families. They had no clue who in most cases who the father was, or if they did, the father wasn't present, and that caused even more angst because why did dad leave, kind of thing. Strengthening peer relationships, another area to be worked in, and then finally improving pro-social behaviors. Hard to do to take a person and remap their thinking, but that's what we do in counseling and psychology. So there are things to consider. What do you run into when you are trying to fix these things? Sometimes strategic family therapy isn't the best. Here's some things that can knock it off the rails. Participation. All the family members have to agree to participate in the process. Some of the dynamics that prevent that before you become involved are contributing factors to the behavior problems themselves. So working together in cooperation is necessary. So this participation factor, maybe you have one or two that don't want to come to the sessions, or they're just not interested, whatever the case is. And that leads into resistance. They are referred. For example, the children that I dealt with in the alternate high school, many were referred by the criminal justice system. You will go to this counselor. You will do this. You will do that. And oftentimes they resist that. They come from a background where that's not common to their day-to-day activities. So I'm not going to do it because I don't want to. And this includes resistance to family attempted interventions. Um, Makes it hard to initiate treatment. Difficult emotions. You got to understand that these people are undergoing emotional upheaval. If things just aren't going right in their lives, either because of them or because of circumstances outside of their control, the way they deal with those things, the picked on attitude, a number of other things that come into play here. So you need to make sure that they understand that you're trained in this area. You're there to help. You're not trying to shove something down their throat. You're trying to introduce them into a situation that's going to be conducive to mental healing, emotional healing. So that's just a little extra added dessert for what you already know. And I'll be probably in touch again this week, potentially not. And then next week we'll be back on track. So hang loose.